I was in Miami before I met you, hitting mint at some hotel bar. The following week, Nike had announced they were acquiring this company. The mint cost for each NFT was 2 ETH, but then when Nike had announced that they acquired this company, it shot up to like 35 ETH. I ended up minting like 35.
You serious? This is what happened. I'll give you guys the rundown. Everybody now starts posting about cryptocurrency. And all I see online is how rich this guy from high school and you are now a guru and this and that. I'm like, these dudes are all fucking phony. Like, there's no way I believe a thing they're saying. And then you start posting like little things like great find or great min. And I'm like, what the fuck does that mean? Oh, 5 ETH, 10 ETH. So I hit up you personally and you're like, dude, this space is incredible. You have to get in it right now.
Yep.
And then at the time, like, I had some expendable cash. I was like, you know what? This seems like a lot of fun. So I came to you. Now let's start your journey there at like, I want to say it was like 2021.
It was 2021. So I had gotten into NFTs and I know exactly what you mean about like the people in high school that were buying Bitcoin early. You call them crazy. You're like, and also the profile of this person is maybe not the most, I don't know, like prestigious. Let's put it that way. So when I got in, that kind of turned me off to it, right? To crypto early on. But when I eventually re-entered into the space, because I was in crypto in 2018, Mike and I were, and Jules had a lot of exposure too, because we were doing media and marketing services for crypto companies, and we really had no exposure to crypto at the time. We were just facilitating services. I got in as an actual investor and consumer in the crypto NFT space 2021 when we had first like reconnected about it, and that set me on a pretty insane path. Like MetaverseHQ, what I do now and what I'm building now is really, it started in 2021 as a community of the most degen NFT crypto investors in the space. We were power users. We knew everything worth investing in. We would be early. We would all be in like 150 person voice chat at like 3 a.m. gunning for something, right? Like there was the difference with the crypto market is that it never sleeps. So naturally you can never sleep, because you always have to be on.
I remember that you wouldn't sleep much.
No, we wouldn't. Yeah. So when we were in Miami with all the NFT degens, right?
Dude, he'd bring his laptop to like breakfast. He'd like sit like with his sunglasses on and have his like little tablet and be like, Mitch, like, dude, eat some food, man.
Which I still hear now.
Yeah. Dude, he was like, oh, fuck. Yeah.
But it's been a really crazy time. And since 2021, we've continued to facilitate that service for our community. And it's actually helped us now develop a platform, a product, in infra that we hope can help bring Web3 and make it a lot more easily accessible, give a lot more value to people that just aren't in crypto and NFTs. But all that to say, that's been the transformation of the last 3 years, is going from degen NFT trader, like literally your mom could buy the same NFTs that I'm selling, to then making investments into companies, into different platforms, NFT marketplaces, and helping guide those platforms to success, helping their go-to-market. So we basically became a community of NFT investors and traders. Then we became like a community that incubated products and platforms. And now, we're continuing that progression through the development of a product.
Was this one of those things like you wanted to have happen? You kind of just felt it happening and you're like, fuck it.
It was one of those things, right? It's exciting when you invest in something and it goes up, right? And then it's another thing to understand what you're investing in and how this, like, I don't know, what are the future markets going to look like? How is the future demand going to look? And that's what I found particularly exciting, is like nowadays I don't do as much NFT trading, right? That's a 24/7 job. Like I would have my laptop out right now looking at the market.
Which would be hilarious.
Same thing with crypto. It's the same thing with crypto, right? Yeah. So I'm more focused on being on like the builder side now, and be obviously still community facing and ensuring that we have a robust pipeline of information, right? Of alpha, as we call it, right? We used to call it like alpha is information that you can make money on or can help mitigate your losses. It's usually time sensitive. We still insure a lot of that, but again, the space has evolved so much since you first met me starting off in the space, just like sleepless nights, laptop always open.
Yeah.
Right. It's sort of evolved that way as well with everyone else.
Did you almost feel like I gotta expand and sort of grow where I was because it's not gonna last? All right, what's up, everybody? Hope you're enjoying this episode of the Johnny Drinks podcast. Quick reminder, Johnny Drinks crew necks, still on sale, limited inventory, so if you want to grab one, hit that link in the description. But for now, keep enjoying the rest of this episode.
Yes.
Well, you should tell him your story too. He was working a full-time job at Verizon, well-paying.
Yeah.
And he didn't have to leave his job necessarily because they weren't even making him work that much at the time. They were going through a merger and whatnot.
You had the best job in America.
But he pretty much said, fuck it. Like,
he
he actually took a leap of faith of like, outside the monetary gain, he's like, I actually see something in this. I want to be a part of this full time. And he actually just quit his job on a whim. He didn't even tell me. He didn't tell anyone else. He kind of just did it.
When did you quit?
I remember that conversation. That was
an
July
incredible
4th,
feeling.
2021.
Yeah.
Down the shore. I was fucking grinding over my grandparents' house. He was at my aunt's house across the street because that's how we all know each other. Uh-huh. And he came over, and I knew how great his job was because he literally worked remote, worked from wherever he wanted to. Some days he'd be in fucking Europe working. 2 hours a day max. He did the engineering and the sales. They loved him. I'm not going to say how much you were making, but more than I made in my entire life in a day. And he was like, I think
it was a lot for a little.
I think I'm going to leave this to go all in this thing I've been doing. And I was like, I think you should do that. And
you're fucking crazy. You know?
No, dude. I was like, Mitch is going to be great at this.
Well, I knew you understood because everyone knows that feeling of, I mean, you've always been a self-starter, right, John? And when you work professional, like, and you go into corporate, there's this feeling that sinks in that you could do this for the rest of your life. And like, that's a mindset that is, it's hard to break. And it's really unnerving when you break it, right? Even though I felt like I was ready. And even though I didn't tell my brother or my parents that I was going to quit my job to pursue MetaverseHQ and crypto and Web3 and NFTs full time, it was still unnerving. And so when I made that call, it was just like a leap of faith, really.
So, I mean, but you made the leap, and it was still a leap of faith, don't get me wrong. You had something already building. A lot of times I think, like I'm 28, I see people around me all the time that are like, man, I just want to get out of the corporate job stuff and the 9 to 5, I can't stand it. What should I do? And they're not asking me, they're asking themselves, but like, you should try something first. Like, you should never quit and then be like, I'm gonna go find something to fucking do online. Like, that is not, because you have to build skill too. Like, you were now learning on the fly, and it wasn't learning from 9 to 5, it was learning from 24/7. Like, you were constantly on.
Bro, we would be like so I worked at Verizon, and it was pandemic. So no one had come back to the office. And we have 4 floors of prime real estate that I would just at the time when MetaverseHQ began, the founder, his name's Jake, he had basically, I hit him up. I was like, dude, I love the community. I was just a member. I was like, I love this community. I love MetaverseHQ. Whatever the fuck I can do, I'm down. Obviously, like Jules said, I had time, right? I was only putting maybe 2 hours max every day. I was like, dude, this is exciting. I want to be on the forefront of this. And eventually, as that progressed, more and more HQ members would actually, like, we used my office at Verizon. We'd be there from like 3 p.m. to like 6 a.m. And they would just let me bring however many guests because there fucking was nobody there.
Right.
And we would just have this one big like office space with monitors, like tracking the market, laptops,
lighting,
literally
biggest men and women. We were all just like such like the amount of money spent in that room and made in that room, like, is alarming.
Bro, that office is worth like nine figures, fully stocked, snacks, food, supplies, everything.
Infinite snacks.
And it was only to us.
Dude, I thought it was the
middle
first
of
time
New York
you took
City,
me in there. I thought it was fake. I'm like, wait, you can just take that? You're like, yeah. And I just walked right in. No badge. You want to talk about no security?
Weird.
Like, I just walked in there like, hey man, how are you? I'm like, what the fuck? I don't work here. I'm wearing a suit.
I don't belong here. Well, all right, because it was a super fun time, and I want to back it up to like the inception of this entire thing, what got you involved. So again, I reached out because I thought it was super exciting.
Yeah, I want to hear from your eyes
Oh, so all
how,
right, I'll get
how
to
it unraveled. Like, how does it look from the outside looking in that all this shit is happening?
So what I, again, reached out because I knew you were a legitimate dude. Like, you were authentic and you were genuine. And so you weren't going on your Instagram stories and being like, I'm going to lie about how much money I'm making. And you were pretty real about it. So like you said, you minted, made this. Yeah, you were. And so when I called you, you're like, dude, you're like, I know. You're like, this is fucking crazy. I don't really know what's going on, but you have to get in here because it's so much fun. And I was like, you know what? Like, I got nothing else to really do right now. And I'm making TikToks. And
I'll twist my arm.
Yeah, twist my arm. I'm going to have a blast with this shit.
Yep.
So you're like, but you have to be careful. Like, you can lose a lot of money. You're like, don't move until I sort of say so. And I was like, deal. I won't move a step until you tell me what to do. So you get me in these Discords. I've never used Discord in my life.
Same.
You guys start using like this crazy lingo about like what to do, what not to do.
Yep.
And then we start minting projects. So this is where, why don't you give like an extremely high level of what an NFT was or is,
Sure.
the entire process of minting, secondary market, where we made our spread and all that stuff.
Yeah, that's a great question. I like to equate NFTs to, if you ever imagine, like, do you play video games, John?
Rarely.
Jules, I know you don't do anything but work on your podcast.
Yeah,
Mike,
literally.
all right, so like Mike plays video games. We grew up playing video games together, right? And we play all these awesome online games, and we earn like skins to our guns and like cool equipment. We can like dress our character in. Like, my parents would be like, why do you give a fuck what your character looks like in a video game, right? Like, why don't you care about more of what you look like in real life, right? Very fair sentiment, by the way, right? But the way that I equate NFTs, it's actually owning those assets, right? So if you got like an in-game skin, if you're a League player and you got some sort of skin, if you play Call of Duty, you got a gun skin, whatever the case might be, the NFT version of that is to effectively own that asset so you can sell it, you can trade it, right? Where in a lot of these games, Roblox is probably the best example, you really can't trade with other players the assets that you have. It's locked into your account, right? And that was sort of that's what brought me into Web3 was, wow, if all of the in-game assets that you earn, the currencies in the games, the skins, the different clothing that you can like earn, if you can trade that and sell it, or even buy like different assets, because fuck this, I want what Jules has, right?
Yeah.
I want to be able to do that, right? That's a future that I believe in because I'm a gamer. And so I've always looked at NFTs in that sense, where it's an asset that you actually own. You can use it perhaps in a game, perhaps somewhere else, and it's completely, it's completely tradable. And that's what brought me into the space initially. But what NFTs ended up being, at least to start, was simply avatars, was simply the typical like NFT drop would consist of 10,000 different avatars, profile pictures, right? Maybe it's the Bored Apes, maybe it's like of cats, I don't know, dogs tomorrow, who the fuck knows, right? Yeah. And you would effectively claim, you would buy, mint is what we like to call it, but you're purchasing that asset directly from the company. And then once all those assets have been purchased, we can trade them amongst each other.
Right. So there's a finite amount you mint or buy from the original company. Now you go and sell it if you'd like to on a secondary market.
Exactly. On the secondary markets, you might have heard of OpenSea. That's a really big one. A couple that we backed is LooksRare, Blur, but it's all the same shit, right? These marketplaces are intermediaries where you can buy and sell assets, similar to how you would if you opened up Robinhood, you're selling stocks. We open up OpenSea and we sell, our assets, which just happen to be NFTs.
Right. Okay. So you get involved. I love the transition from gaming, and that's probably why you were so successful, because you've been doing it for how many years? Like you've always understood the concept.
Predisposed to it.
Right. And
Totally
for me, like I didn't play video games, so I was like, I still don't get this. But again, Mitch is kind of having fun with it, and I want to have fun too. So you start. Is it like an immediate, holy shit, I'm getting really good at this thing? Like how did you identify that you had like a skill set to get really good?
Dude, honestly, I just got it started off, it's a combination of luck and also like timing. And yeah, exactly, money too. So when Mike and I were doing Project Aeronaut together, right? So it was this podcast, got like 20,000 followers on TikTok. Obviously not as massive as Johnny Drinks, but while we were doing that, we got into NBA Top Shot, and Top Shot was the NBA's NFTs. So like you'd watch a you watch a basketball game, and then what they would do is NBA would take clips, certain highlights of individual players, and make that video into an NFT, right? That you can own and you can trade and sell that NFT. And I just happened to be lucky. And by lucky, I mean early, right? So I just bought a bunch of stupid shit from players that no one's ever heard of. And then because the ecosystem, there was so much more demand than there was supply of the NFT, all the prices were just skyrocketing. And so I was just early to something that was going to be very, very exciting a month, 2 months later.
Right.
And from being early, right, you sort of get this optimistic boost like, oh my God, there's so much money to be made here. Yeah. What's the next thing, right? Where it's like, imagine if you were buying late before everything eventually dumped, you're going to have the opposite reaction. You're going to be like, fuck NFTs, this sucks. It's like any market, right? Yeah. You buy Facebook high or you bought whatever high and it goes down. You bought Disney, right? Last year, sorry, right? Now you're like, I fucking hate stocks.
Too, if you got in early at like GameStop kind of level.
Yeah, a lot of people that are in NFTs actually were in GameStop, had exposure to GameStop.
Similar, yeah.
They know exactly like what that feeling was that Thursday morning when you couldn't hit buy, you can only hit sell. A lot of us had that experience with Robinhood. And that was another big push for NFTs and crypto. It's like no one's stopping us from buying or selling. The market is incredibly flexible and always accessible.
Right.
It's not going to be like your stocks in Robinhood are going to be fucking locked up or some dumb shit like they're going to take the buy button away from the actual like user experience like Robinhood did. And now there's a movie about it that Seth Rogen like directed, you know?
Yeah.
So that was my big allure in NFTs. And then I just happen to get very good because of this community, right? If you have all these people 24/7, all they're doing is and breathing is the market. You're obviously going to gather insights that are very valuable that you won't find anywhere else.
Right. And okay, so MetaverseHQ at the time when you just heard about it was just a community. You guys were all just a bunch of guys that were into this and said, "Hey, we should look into this project. This project's minting at this time."
Yeah.
That was
Bro, I had to fill out a fucking Google form to get into this community.
Yeah, I remember that.
One of the questions I'll never forget was, what are you going to contribute to the community? I was like, I can make content, I could do this, yada, yada, yada. And once I got in, I made like one video and that's it. You know, like I really got, like once you get ingrained in the community like I did, it was really infectious because we're the most effective you can be together collectively,
right?
And we're making a lot of profit. So both of those things together, it's like it's so alluring when you're making a lot of money, obviously.
Right. So you got in 2021, you said, right?
2021.
So as soon as you started, you're like, I gotta hop into a community.
Yes and no. What happened was there's so much insights together. It's like any market, right? Like my dad, for instance, he's a full-time investor in stocks. But he can only cover so much stocks, right? In the same way that I was like just a normal investing by myself. I can only cover so many different areas where you needed a community. I needed a community to help me hone in all the insights, aggregate as much as possible to determine which is actionable and which is worth it, right? It's just a more efficient use of your time when you work with a team collectively as opposed to just individually.
And explain for me and for people listening, like what would make for an attractive, I guess, mint for you? Like, what'd you have to look for? Did you look for like the artist or?
Yeah, that's honestly, this is like the embarrassing part. You're not really looking for much. The only thing you look for is
a pulse.
Exactly. The only thing you're looking for is a pulse that there is action on this specific collection, right? In the same way that like you might look at Facebook and see there are so much people buying this.
Yeah.
That maybe if I hit buy now, there'll be more buys and I can sell later. That you're always looking for a pulse, a spark that this thing could rip. You didn't give a fuck who is launching the project. You didn't really care about the art. You're only supposed to look at like the volume, the spark, if you will.
That's why when you think about NFTs of the past versus where they're at now, it's definitely normalized. And there's very specific use cases where NFTs now have been being used over and over again, even in a bear market.
Really?
To like the past year, to now where we're at. So it's not the same as it was before when we think about like NFTs now. And even Mitch's community, how it's being utilized. how it's utilizing this platform when people come out with NFTs, it's actually like way different than before.
Really? So there's actual utility now to these NFTs.
Yeah,
They're not just
typically.
It's
seal
more
pictures.
about utility now.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's more
Really?
utility focused.
Yeah, it's very
Because I
utility
remember
focused.
like back in the day, you would look for things with utility, and then you'd be like, it doesn't really fucking matter. Like that's not what drive or big name artists, like an actual artist or a DJ is involved with this project. It's gonna go crazy. Like what was Justin Bieber got involved with something?
Bored
And we were-
Ape.
Yeah,
Bored
yeah.
Ape's
But he got
good.
involved with a smaller project too that we were pretty hyped up about, and then ended up like just not doing anything.
Yeah.
Remember the Migos?
It's the
Yes. That was the
Yeah,
one.
the
That was the
Migos
one.
Yeah. Yeah. Space apes or something.
Space Ace.
Dumb shit.
Sound like a real
But
winner.
we made some good money. Yeah, you made some good money off that one.
I mean, dude, the amount of celebrities that came into the space and absolutely just rugged everyone. Right.
Dude, the Logan
John,
Paul.
Once I saw
Logan
you,
Paul, great example.
Yeah.
Yeah. Crypto Zoo.
Once I saw you ripping in Fran's flowers with us, like just some random project. I
I like the
knew you were
narrative.
to bubble up.
Yeah,
Like, all right,
yeah.
there's like DJs now.
Yeah,
I like
dude,
the narrative.
I was so excited. I was like, you know, we had a Crypto Zoo again, and I was explaining to Joe before this. I got rug pulled because what would happen is you would think it was the Crypto Zoo website, and I'm like, oh man, I'm one of the first to mint, but they would
remember
change
that.
the URL by like a letter,
Yep.
and I was like, Mitch, what happened? What? Where's my? And you're like, brother, you just sent ETH to some random dude.
Random address.
Probably
You're
got
like-
scared because it happened so fast too, right? Is
Bro,
that the problem?
Mitch,
you
like,
feel
congratulations, you
so-
just lost your first mint. And I was
first
like,
rug.
Yeah, first rug. How you
Yeah.
feel?
Crypto Zoo was your first.
Yeah.
Crypto Zoo was a rug to the people that actually got the project. So everyone got rugged.
Everyone-
Whether
yeah.
you went to a random site or you went to the real site, you still got rugged. And that's the thing. Logan Paul is now taking heat for it.
Yeah.
Right? But he's not liable. It's not like he's going to jail
had
for
no
that
clue.
shit.
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know?
yeah.
And like right now, I saw a post earlier today. There was an AI video of Michael Saylor on a podcast. Basically, it was like a 24/7 podcast, and it was scamming people. They generated Michael Saylor to via AI to tell users, to tell streamers that they could double their Bitcoin if they send the Bitcoin to this address.
Oh my
and literally, they're
God.
using AI to scam people now. So the scams have gotten only
getting
like
scary.
1,000x more proficient.
That, dude, I can't imagine. I mean, it's probably not, it wouldn't even be close to the same of what it was even 3 years ago because of something like that.
Yeah, I mean, still those classic link scams always classic. I mean, I still get emails about some prince in Uganda or something. You know,
do.
like, they're
'Cause
classic.
You know the craze now. Everyone's coming out with a shit meme coin, and they're telling people, "Hey, we're about to drop a pre-sale. Send money to this wallet."
Yeah.
Some people are making a shit ton of money off of it right now, but
Still?
other people, yeah, because they're basically just token. Imagine you're able to invest in an IPO of a regular company, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when they go public, you're able to sell your shares immediately, make a shit ton of money. It's the same concept happening 100 times over in the crypto world right now,
Right.
where people are coming out with this token. You're buying early, you're buying it private so that you're getting it for a very low cost, and then you hope once it goes public,
Yeah.
you could just sell that token in the exchanges. And that's what a lot of people are getting scammed like that today as well. They're just dumping money into random wallets, and then they're never coming out with a token. You know what I mean?
Oh, they just kind of like leave it in like this we'll let you know stage.
Yeah, so there's a stat right now, like even in Solana alone, which is just one blockchain. I'm sure most people are familiar with like Ethereum or Bitcoin and whatnot. But in the past like 2 weeks, the top 10 projects that were shitcoins probably raised around 122 million.
Wow.
Alone
Holy
in
shit.
just like the past 2 weeks. Shitcoins, not talking real projects. So people are
Wow.
pumping money into the market right now
As of recently.
as of
And
recent.
I want,
recent,
I want to
yeah.
get to like the ebbs and flows.
Yeah.
Again, for the audience and even for myself, what is blockchain?
Yeah, so blockchain is like the underlying infrastructure in which these assets, crypto and NFTs, are able to be facilitated through, transacted through. I like to equate blockchain to an infrastructure in Web 2 that's commonly used, like AWS, probably the greatest example, right? They're a services provider. They provide infrastructure if you want to build a business. And similar to that type of infrastructure, right? On the blockchain, it's a little bit different where everyone supports each other, right? There is no centralized Amazon entity. Everyone is supporting this infrastructure through their internet, through, there are other, we call it like proof of something, like Bitcoin, I believe is POW, proof of work. There's proof of liquidity now, but basically it's this collective, there's an incentivization built within the infrastructure so that there are more participants. So then you build on top of that infrastructure, and that infrastructure is basically immutable. So you can't change records, right? Like if your bank decides one day that fuck John Ronnie's $1 million, he now has zero. Like, you can't do that on a blockchain, right? There's a lot of like advantages to that. I like to think of it as, are you familiar with like the dark web and Tor network at all? Okay,
John's on it all the time.
Yeah.
The dark web is really interesting because the only way you can really access it is through what's called the Tor network, TOR. So you download the software, and the way that this network works is that the more people that use Tor, it's like the more people that use Google Chrome, the more obfuscated your and less detectable you actually become, because there are so many people supporting it. It's hard to differentiate where you're actually coming from, right? So it's this idea of shared collective contribution, and I really love that. That's really prevalent in blockchain. It's that you don't have a centralized entity supporting this infrastructure and developing this infrastructure. You actually have a massive worldwide community of developers and people contributing to keep that infrastructure afloat and innovative.
And you glossed over this a bit earlier, but this should be said. Like Mitch and Mike, and then eventually me, through you guys, came up in this game in 2018 with, I would say, like the industrial railroad builders of this, right? So like Sloan Brakefill, shout out Sloan, right? Like these guys were building the first infrastructure of blockchain that exists, and in some cases they were ahead of their time. But like long before there's like NFTs or all these other things that we learned about in the pandemic, like the actual railroad tracks of it, they were in there, like they were working for these companies and helping develop it and bring it public so that people understood what this was. So, you're talking to guys who have a long-term understanding of what's going on there.
So in 2018, we were actually at a convention hosted by Consensus. Yeah. Consensus is the founder is Joseph Lubin, who's one of the co-founders of Ethereum, and we saw him giving a presentation. We saw an NFT gets sold as well in real time, and
what's that?
Yeah, I was like, what the fuck is that? But it's just like now
18,000 crypto kitty.
Yeah. It's very full circle because Consensus developed MetaMask, which was the hot wallet, like Chrome extension that everyone used and still uses today sometimes.
And now they invested in Mitch and his company.
Yeah, and then Consensus invested in MetaverseHQ. Wow. So it's really that full circle.
Full circle
of a relationship with this technology.
Holy, did you approach them or?
So I actually don't. Oh, one of our members works at Consensus, and that's how we first got connected with them. And through a lot of conversations and obviously like mutual shared values and vision, they invested in us last year. But again, that's how full circle this has become, right? This is like 6 years almost in the making to where we are now.
Right. What is your role at MetaverseHQ now?
I am the CEO and basically just one of the main contributors of HQ.
Wow.
He's the guy.
I was going to say, you're that guy.
But he worked
I'm one of the guys for sure.
Because John, you brought up something before about your friends asking you what they should do. They want to quit. They want to start something. Yeah. And I think Mitch's story is a great example of starting small and figuring out along the way. Like, you think about his story. He actually joined a community, and the first thing he said was, I was trying to provide value.
Yeah.
Right? And then over time, like, he just joined a community. He was learning from others, but providing value, that's when he actually learned about this business opportunity. And then he worked his way up all the way from member to marketing to CEO, where he's at now. And so, like, I think it just reminded me of what you were saying earlier. It's like you could literally do something very small and just try it out because, you'll figure it out from there.
Yeah, because again, like in the beginning, it was just like a fun thing we did, and then you're like, holy shit, wait, we're making real money here.
Yep.
And then you're like, wow, I'm making way more than just real money here.
Yep.
And then now you might as well take it seriously and make this your full-time thing.
Well, it's that, and also like as the space evolved, the way that I interfaced with the space evolved too. And instead of like NFT trading, I was now making like sizable investments from the NFT profit into companies directly, right? And so like now that was a fun hat to wear, and I continue to wear that, but there's always something new. That's what I really love about it. It's always something new.
Right. So you now more so like you said, investing into other companies that are, but all involved in
Web3.
blockchain. Okay.
Yep.
Gotcha. Now I want to talk about where you're at today, but some fun questions for the NFT days when it was hot and heavy. Give us like a rough example of like a really, really big
disgusting
win.
play.
Just a disgusting play for you.
Yeah.
Use as much detail as you'd like.
You made a lot of money on Migos. You
Oh,
made
dude,
that trade at my podcast
Yeah,
table
I
at my
remember
parents'
that.
house.
Yeah, I do
ahead.
I remember
that.
you're like, hold on, Jules, we have to pause the podcast. I got to move 300 ETH.
Bro, when you
My
would throw
dad's like, what
numbers
the
out-
fuck does that even mean?
You would throw numbers out, and I'd be like, "That's not even real, bro. There's no way he has that much in a wallet." And then you'd show me. I was like, "He's not lying.
Yeah.
It's so much ETH."
Well, that's the thing, right? On the blockchain, you can't lie about your bank account, right?
You would like accidentally pull it up and be like, "Oops!" And you had like 1,000 different wallets. So I was like, "Oh, that's only
Oops,
one."
I'm sorry, I'm
Yeah,
rich.
You're like, "Oh, sorry." But yeah, give us one of like your nastiest wins.
I think NFT play wise, this happened very early. So I knew that there was a project coming up that I needed about, to make the play that I wanted to make on this project. I needed about 26 ETH, right? So at the time, my bankroll was like 3 ETH, 3 to 5 ETH or something, and I was like, okay, well, I need to make 4x this by next week, right? That was the frame of mind.
Kids work.
That I went into. Yeah, I was like, all right, let's see what we can do here, right? So one night, and again, I'm with MetaverseHQ. We're all in the Discord, and we're scouting. We're looking for projects. We called ourselves the Night Crew because this was the crew that never slept.
Didn't sleep.
Yeah. We were like, okay, it's 10 p.m. We're activated, right? Because it was fun to make plays during the evening before the East Coast wakes up, right? And then also you got to consider the Asian market. So it was really good timing. We
Right.
basically play with the Asian markets. And there's this project that I minted 5 of, and it probably cost like $250 per each NFT. So I mint 5 of these NFTs, and these things skyrocket within an hour to, let's just say, like $5,000, right? So I immediately 10x my investment there. And then a couple hours later, there's another investment opportunity that was massive. And I basically rolled that money into the next NFT play, which was a game, right? So I bought NFTs to a game that never came out.
What was the game?
It was called Guild of Guardians.
I remember that.
I just remember like names of things you like.
Yeah.
talking
So
about.
it was supposed to be like this like mobile app, this mobile game called Guild of Guardians. You mint these NFTs, you can use them in the game, right? Great, cool premise. Except NFTs came out before the game even came out, so they were basically useless.
Right.
And so I mint those, and then as the story goes, by the following week, I had enough ETH to then make the big play, and the big play ended up netting me over 130 ETH, and that was like that week alone was like, okay, this is like, I'm getting good at this. So then from there, and that was early in the journey. That was probably like 2021. I want to say before Miami. That was well before Miami when we had met.
Can you pull up what ETH was worth in 2021? I want to say it was in the threes at this point.
Threes, probably.
Yeah.
Like, it was like 36.
It got up there.
Yeah.
And if,
36,
can somebody do some
37.
quick math on 130 times 3?
That's like over 450K around, or no, it's closer to. Yeah, you're
It's
close to like
390.
500 plus.
Yeah, it was like a.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah,
good
it was
question.
it was up, and it like
This is like November, December, right?
yeah, the peak was 47.
Yeah.
Yeah, the peak was
Bro.
47, and then it went down to 17. I mean, it was really volatile.
Dude, the peak at 4,700, I think that's also was like kind of a catalyst because even to buy an NFT, you would have to pay like $200 of a gas fee.
All right, let's talk about that too. Like when you are trading and minting,
Sure.
there is something called a gas fee, and explain what that is and why it exists.
Sure. So a gas fee is basically a tax to the contributors of the blockchain who sit on the other end of the aisle, right?
Right.
So if you think about back to my earlier analogy with AWS and Amazon maintains the entire infrastructure, right? All the costs associated. Well, who does that for the blockchain, right? Well, it's a multitude of individuals that support the blockchain, and they sit on the other side as basically ensuring that the infrastructure remains intact. And so a gas fee for every transaction is their tax, right?
Right.
Why are they doing it? Why are they dedicating their bandwidth or their usage or their contributions? Well, they're not doing it for free.
Yeah.
So that's what the gas fee is. The gas fee is a tax to ensure that these people get paid, and that's why the incentive structure is really quite robust.
Got it. And would gas price be tied to the demand? Like I know sometimes gas was like 0.03 ETH and then it'd be 0.15.
Well, yeah, that's the beautiful thing about the blockchain is that you can actually tip more, right? And it's like it's when you're at a fancy restaurant.
Say beautiful, but
well,
that's a crazy word to use.
It is beautiful if you can tax that, if you can pay more, right?
Yeah.
If you go to a restaurant, obviously, if you're known as a very good tipper, you're going to get the best service. It's the same thing for the blockchain.
You're prioritized. Oh, okay. So explain that too. Like if you paid more, you'd almost jump the line.
Exactly. You jump the line.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, man,
so it's like I don't want to wait outside at Kith or Supreme. I'd rather pay the bouncer a little bit extra cash because I think my time is better well spent, or I think the thing that I want to get inside that store is going to be sold out by the time that I get to the actual front of the line. So I'd rather cut it.
Yeah.
I'd rather be penny poor and dollar rich.
Yes, but I remember also like you could mint or you could pay the gas fee and then not even mint, right?
Yeah, because sometimes it would. That often happens when again you're in line and
they go, sorry, sold out.
Yeah, sold out.
And
sorry,
because you already made the transaction, so it's out of your hand. Like.
Yeah,
it's just been sold out already.
It did make it easier when you equated just to ETH, because then it was like a fun token. When you're like, wow, that's $500. Like, what the fuck?
Well, yeah.
Why am I up at 2 a.m. blowing money on nonsense right now? Because
Yeah.
Mitch told me so. I'm like, god damn it.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, right? The currency in blockchain's different. You're not trading in USD, right? So that's why everyone in NFTs, whether you're in Solana or wherever the NFTs are, you think about the currency in which you're trading them.
Right.
And then that bleeds into real life where you look at a cup of coffee and you think, how much is that but in like crypto, because that's all I've got.
yeah. Well, I mean, you said we went to Miami. It was right after like your big win, but then that wasn't your only win. You were
in Miami. I was cooking one of my biggest plays.
Talk about it.
So Nike hadn't acquired this company yet, but the company was called Artifact, and I thought it was very undervalued. It was a collection size of 20,000 NFTs, and I was probably one of the only ones hitting mint, and each mint was worth like 2 ETH. So at the time it was like, I don't know, $7,000. And so I was like, I'm just going to fucking send it on this and just see what happens, because this is a really awesome brand. And I hadn't known Nike was going to acquire them, right? I just sort of got lucky. So it's right place, right time, right? I had a feeling that this brand was more. Murasaki was doing the fucking art. And it's like, you really can't, not Murasaki, he's the director of some really famous, I'm blanking on the name, but I just had a lot of conviction in this project. And that was in Miami. I was in Miami before I met you, hitting mint at some hotel bar. And then the following week, Nike had announced that they were acquiring this company, and the mint cost for each NFT was 2 ETH, which was, again, roughly $7,000. But then when Nike had announced that they acquired this company, it shot up to like 35 ETH. So it was just like one of the biggest plays to make at the time.
How many did you buy?
I ended up buying minting like 35.
You fucking serious?
30, yeah, something like that. 35.
Bro, but when he was minting, he called me to help him mint because it was in his different wallet, and I was freaking out because he wasn't answering. He was on the flight, bro.
Yeah, I was on the flight.
So I was like, bro, I'm about to put in like $80,000 in this.
Oh my god!
And you're not answering me if I should confirm this or not. So I just press confirm. And then he hits me up later. He's like, dude, you bought it at way too high of a price.
Oh, shit, really?
At the time, it was because it was a reverse auction. Not to get into too much detail, but over time, it was going to
price
lower.
But explain reverse auction. It starts high, goes low, but then you run the risk of not getting any.
Yeah, because there's a certain limit. So let's say they're only going to sell 100 of them, and anyone could buy it, but the opening price starts at, let's say, like $10,000.
What a fuckery!
It's called a Dutch auction. So the price will typically have the cost will have a settling price, right, the minimum, but it will start at a much higher price, and that's like a typical thing you see in the space. Ty Lopez's NFT collection was the opposite.
Oh,
So it
God.
got more expensive as time went on.
Yeah, I remember that.
Which was like the dumbest thing. But yeah, Mike has gotten a lot of calls from me where it's like, yo, I need you to get to my cold storage wallet. Basically, I need you to physically access
That was the
my vault
scariest
of
by
like
far.
all of my money and help me make this play because I am not anywhere near New York City. I don't have access to this physical device that
okay.
has all of my money. So Mike has got, I mean, there's a call
Imagine your
recently.
friend calling you or your brother calling you and like he's telling you to put his entire life savings into something and he won't answer the phone.
Yeah, it's
What
like
were you doing?
hundreds
Oh, you were on
of
the- you were on the
thousands. I was on the
plane.
plane,
He's
bro.
on the fucking plane,
Dude.
I was on the plane. A lot of times I'm on a plane when these moves are being made. I don't know why,
But you think about, to bring it back to Artifact, they got acquired for $1 billion, and actually, like as of just this past month, Nike's actually shutting them down.
What is Artifact?
They're shutting them down?
They're shutting them down. Yeah.
yeah, Artifact is this. It's this company that launched the collection of 20,000 NFTs I was telling you about.
Okay.
They were also doing a lot of cool other NFTs.
Design and animation.
But that's
they're
all
big
they were
on
doing
that.
was the.
Yeah, that's all. They were
okay,
just like
that's
a
what I was
design
confused about.
studio shipping NFTs, and
Got
Nike was
it.
like, "We fuck with you." They acquired them.
Let's put them into shoes and shit. And
Yeah.
it just didn't.
It just didn't pan out
didn't
for
pan
Nike,
out. Yeah.
but it panned out for your boy. So.
I'm thinking through what you just said because like I'm trying to register and process. He said that he had 35 ETH valued JPEGs.
35. So I spent like 70 ETH on those because I bought 35 of them, and they were 2 ETH each.
Right. So okay, we do the math. 35 times 35 is not 9. Is that 1,000?
Was that 35 ETH at one point, each of them?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
damn near.
Fuck.
I
So
didn't
it's
sell.
about
I didn't sell them
1,000?
at that, but
Oh, he didn't sell at 35 ETH, though.
I sold them for like 16 ETH a pop.
But there was a point in time where you had $1,000 multiply $1,000 by multiply that by. Let's just have fun.
Well, he put in 35 at 2, and he got out 35
I don't
at
want to look at the
16.
number. I don't want to look at the number. Stupid. That's so dumb.
Send me money,
Yeah,
man.
what are you doing here? I
Send
need a
me
podcast
money.
studio, man. Are you minting right now? What are you doing?
No, sorry.
Are you making a play,
quick
dude?
maths. No alpha here.
Fuck,
no.
fuck, cool. Dude, that is. I mean, but that was like the thrill of it because I'm sure there's stories of the opposite. You know, where there were days.
Oh,
like, I just
absolutely.
lost.
Like I've gotten smoked so hard so many times. But like that's my investment strategy is like I go hard and I throw weight. But I mean, if you think that one is big, like there are members in MetaverseHQ, like even just this week alone, making easy 6 figures off of like just a day's worth of work.
Wait, still with like NFT projects?
NFTs, crypto, like the whole 9 yards.
All right.
Well,
Well,
the
then,
new wave NFTs.
right, I was gonna say
Yeah.
let's transition
It's
now.
back.
So
Yeah.
it's back. 2021, 2022, everything's great. When does the crypto crash happen?
Crypto crash happens around the time that 2 things unfold pretty much simultaneously within the course of like 3 months. The first is the Russia-Ukraine war. That was in February of 2022. And then you had the collapse of a really massive ecosystem, a really massive blockchain in Korea. It was called Lunaterra. And that happened 2 months after the Ukraine-Russia war.
I'm sorry. Why did the war impact?
The war just impacted markets in general, right?
Okay, got
So
it.
money got shaky, investors got less promiscuous with their money, and then you had the massive crypto focus crash, and then within that same year, you had a multitude of really well established crypto exchanges basically go bankrupt and default, and then you had FTX, right, including FTX, Sam Bankman-Fried, and
Right.
all the craziness that happened there. That basically triggered this really massive wave of negative sentiment towards crypto and NFTs. And plus people were just locking up their money, right? Interest rates were going through the roof as well. And, like crypto and NFTs, I look at this as like a volatile asset, like an incredibly volatile asset, asset class. And with retail investors, right, if you're feeling less promiscuous, you're not going to invest in crypto and NFTs. You're going to, if you're going to invest anything, it's going to be in something more sound, right?
Right. Joe, can you pull up like post 2021, what was the lowest that Bitcoin hit? Do you
Lowest that it hit was like 16,000.
Jesus.
Ethereum 1K.
Ethereum was like 600.
Or 600 even, yeah.
I remember that because again, I forgot that I even had a wallet, and then I want to ask you what is the reverse trend? Why did this now shoot up again?
Again, it's like multi-factor, multivariable. I think the biggest catalyst was the approval of the Bitcoin ETFs by some of the biggest firms like BlackRock. And
buying the shit out of it.
Yeah, and so now retail investors can have exposure to crypto through just simply buying an ETF.
Has Bitcoin hit an all-time high like recently?
Oh yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
It has, right? Over 70?
It ripped to
Bitcoin
72.
It trades in such a pattern. So whenever there's these runs happen in the same whatever it is 2-3 year period, and when it goes down to a bear market, it goes down to what the previous high of the previous bull market was. And it bottoms out, and then it goes back up and breaks through. So it's constantly like moving. If you can, my fucking fingers won't make the right thing, but it's constantly moving where like the line of the bottom is there, the line of the top, and the line of the previous top goes to the previous bottom.
Okay,
it's very
so
strange.
When did it hit like 16K? What day was that, or like month?
I'd have to guess it was like it was December.
December of when? 22? Yeah. Okay, so December 2022, we're at around 16K. We're filming this, what's today, the 19th of March, 2024, and we're at, what, 65? I mean, dipped now 10% last.
It's down to like 62, 61.
Okay, but we were up to a high of
68, 69.
Did it ever hit? Did it hit 70 or no?
72K.
Yeah, it was in the
last
70s.
week.
Was the all-time high it's ever hit?
Yep.
Now,
we hit
why
all-time
do
high.
you think it's now started to decline? Which is great.
Oh, it's like
timing that you're
it's like
here.
an elastic band, right?
Yeah.
It's like it whipped up too quickly, so it's obviously going to. The market is simply correcting itself.
Yes.
Got it. So you see this as more of a correction. Whereas, did you know or have an inkling that this was going to happen back in December of 22?
Yes, I didn't think it happened this fast. Like I'm still appreciative. I'm still getting used to ETH over 3K or over 2K. You know, like this is a great time. Like I don't even care that ETH isn't over 4K right now. Like I'm still very appreciative because I've been here when ETH was 600 to now have ETH above 3,000.
Right.
And I just didn't think it happened that quickly because the sentiment was just so negative, and you know, worse things in the world started happening, right? Like now we're in another war, and like, you know, everyone's talking about a bubble. So there's just like a lot of like negative bear market sentiment. So to see crypto do so well during, you know, even this period, it is quite, it's a pleasant surprise.
Do you find more like legitimacy in the space now? Like, do you feel like the floor is a little bit higher than past? Like,
I think
like the
the
expected
space
floor?
got a lot more diverse. Like Mike said, there's a lot more utility involved in a lot of the NFTs that are offered. I mean, crypto's always going to do crypto things, right? Like you're going to have your more established companies, and then you're going to have your penny stocks. But I think for the most part, what it feels like just trying to be an outsider looking in, is that it's a lot less of a risky investment. And maybe if it's still as risky, it's at least more accessible through the ETFs, right? That a lot of these massive institutions are offering retail investors.
And you can also now short crypto.
Yeah, you've always been able to, I guess, through ETFs, you can now, you know,
I know because
interact
I
with
invested
crypto.
in one about a month ago.
Really?
And then I had to watch my money. Like, I was like, no fucking way. Yeah. No, I did, yeah. But
On an ETF? Or?
I was long. Listen, it was like, for me, I was long because I had an inkling that something like this was going to happen. That there was, like you said, it shot up way too quick for something like this. And the bandwagon that is so quick to hop on when it's high is the same bandwagon it's going to dump when it's, you know, dropping. So it's like the same.
You wouldn't have known
game.
about the ETF. The Bitcoin halving, though, is also part of why they think it's cyclical. Like, Julian's a banker, so he could explain this better, but ex-banker turned YouTube, YouTube sensation.
There's a long
Please
behind me,
explain.
my guy.
But in a nutshell, like, that's also why I think it went really high, because he mixed the ETF news with the fact that the reward that was going out to miners was going to be cut in half. It's just like simple supply and demand. There's a really high demand and less supply basically happening for the future.
Hello, everybody. Quick reminder. Johnny Drink's Cocktail Smoking Kit is still on sale and available, but not for long. I think there's about 20, maybe 30 of these left, so if you want to grab one, hit that link in our description. But for now, enjoy the rest of this episode. Doesn't it feel, again, outside looking in, because I don't know a lot, it feels weird that they're gamifying something like mining. Like, why do I have to solve an equation to win? It just seems like stupid.
That's the so that's like the validation aspect of it, right? It's to continue the services of the blockchain, of the infrastructure,
Right.
And the reason that they like that's called a proof of work blockchain, and the reason that they I guess it was built that way is because these problems can get exponentially harder, and thus you would need more, resources in order to help solve these problems, and so it couldn't be like it. They built like a sustainable ecosystem in which, again, there's the halvening involved, and there's the tax through the gas. And these like problems getting exponentially harder, but it's all in an effort to continue the services of the blockchain itself, right? This needs to happen, and that's how it was designed when some random person named Satoshi Nakamoto like launched Bitcoin, right?
Right, and that could have been like he didn't really know what this was going to turn into at the time.
Yeah, it's definitely imperfect.
I think he
for
did
sure,
know,
Yeah.
because otherwise he would have came
the
out.
NSA.
Well, here we go.
He definitely knew
Please
because
elaborate over here.
Nah, no one knows who he was.
He never
There's a
came
lot of
out.
different theories on if it was multiple people, if it was a government, operation, or if it was a true of the people. I tend to think it was somebody among the people. That's just me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I don't. You think we'll ever know who
I hope so.
it were?
They're a legend.
How would they prove though? Like if you came out and like surprised us me, how are we not proving it to you?
You could probably
There's
prove it.
emails, so maybe if you could like log in to his email.
I mean,
or something.
if you deploy a blockchain and create it, there's going to be records on chain that you are the creator. It's like, how did I prove to you that I had 300 ETH in my account, for instance, right? I showed you that I am the owner of this account. It probably worked the same way.
So that's again like why can't we then track him?
Well, because we don't know, we can't tie his in real life Web 2 profile with his Web 3 life, right?
This guy's
like
over here
in the
playing
same way
God.
that maybe you can't track mine and I can't track yours, right?
What a name too, Satoshi Nakamoto.
Nakamoto.
So it's literally like an anime show.
He's
like it's
goated.
so crazy.
Yeah.
He remade an entire world online.
And he did it at a time where the world was burning. The white paper came
Yeah.
out on October 1st, 2008. Lehman Brothers, the doors weren't even shuttered yet. Everything was crashing.
that's right,
All the
2008.
banks were falling through the floor.
Yep.
People's trust. That's what broke people's trust in the system overall. Forget banking, forget finance, forget people's 401ks and everything. When that great financial crisis happened and people got fucked, and their lives and their dreams were taken out from underneath them. That's where the trust in the system went, like that's where Trump happened, right? He wasn't there yet, but that's where he happened. That's it. It's such a breaking point of society. It's on a level with the 1929 stock crash for sure.
That makes a lot of sense. I didn't realize it dated all the way back to then.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like a response to 2008.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
That makes so much sense. though.
Instantaneous.
That's their
response.
biggest factor of crypto is like the big selling points around trust, but of course that comes with flaws too, right? Like you think about another pillar about governance. It's like if you have trust, that means everyone has to apply by the same set of rules when transacting. But China's not going to apply the same rules. USA doesn't want to do that. You know what I mean? Like there's major flaws there. But and then you even think about transacting on blockchain today. It's like trust will forever be a huge selling point because the moment that we stop trusting Visa with our credit cards, for instance, right? Like right now, Visa, they can process maybe 25,000 transactions per second. And it costs us $0 as a consumer. But the moment that we can't trust them with our money and they just lose all of our money or whatever happens, like a Lehman Brothers, yeah, we're going to be willing to pay that little gas fee.
Right.
Because we know our money is going to be safe. So that's why like trust and governance is such a big part when you think about crypto, even though it has its flaws, like versus like Web 2.
That's also a concern, though. Like, this is something I've always talked with you about, Mitch, and I'd love to get your thoughts on this now. Like, I remember having these conversations with you and Mike and Sloan back in 2018 where I was like, the biggest enemy of crypto is crypto itself. Not because the product isn't useful, but because the simplicity of it is lacking, right? So Steve Jobs always talked about a microwave should have one button, add 30 seconds. If it has more, it's too complex, it's stupid. You want your phone to be able to get somewhere within 1 or 2 clicks. He'd have a heart attack going on the iPhone today. And it's still great, but like it's not on his standard. And with crypto, it's like if I can't explain it to my 85-year-old grandma so that she can go, ooh, click, yay, you know, is it ever going to be adopted? Do you have that concern?
My concern with crypto and really blockchain tech is that it's really I'm more afraid about Mike's point where this technology is getting a lot more efficient, right? It's not like paying a gas fee and like an absorbing gas fee just to make a transaction, like make a credit card transaction, for instance. It's gotten a lot cheaper. Like we're trying to hit the point of near zero, right? That's the idea. And eventually we're going to hit that point. But what happens when we hit that point is that companies relinquish control when they integrate this technology because everyone has to adapt the same standards as the standards that the blockchain dictates, right? So like AWS, Visa, they dictate their own standards, right? They handle all these transactions and maintain the infrastructure and build it to their own book, to their own desire. And obviously they retain all of the control. But as blockchain becomes a lot more accessible, easy to integrate, and a lot more efficient, I'm almost scared that it's against the company's interest to have this technology continue to exist. And so there could be guardrails, maybe even blockers against this technology. Like China banned all of Bitcoin, right? Great example. China, maybe they were underexposed. I don't know how they were, but they just decided, hey, no more Bitcoin. It's gone. Because it's so powerful, they want to control everything about their citizens, but they can't control blockchain. They can't control cryptocurrency.
How do they ban it?
They simply, I haven't been to mainland China in a while, but let's just assume they're all using one app that pays, like an Apple Pay, right?
Right.
It's like if Apple Pay said, hey, you could use crypto before, but now you can't, right? So now there's no use. Now, if no one takes crypto, but everyone's using this app, then that's how you ban
those
it.
websites. You can't access those websites.
They use like
anymore.
firewalls and stuff.
They ban the use of it as like an actual
Currency.
trade currency.
It's like when Google pulled out of China, and I've never been to China, but like you can't get on Google in China.
Okay.
No, you can't.
Understood.
Yeah, you can't.
That's so crazy.
Yeah,
what was
there's
the
a
way
lot
they
of
were-
shit you
What
can't
was the
do.
way they were doing it with the Hong Kong stuff? They had like hackers outside the country, like pinging. I forget what that was.
Oh, during the
Yeah, I wish I
revolution?
could remember. Yeah.
Yeah, like
But,
during COVID?
They couldn't even. They had to hire hackers like outside the country to get in to like Twitter to change the. Yeah.
Yeah, there are
so
some
nuts.
investors that we have from China that literally can't use like Zoom. You know, they can't use a lot of the
Isn't
products
that a
that we
Chinese
use
company?
today. I mean, I don't know if it
I don't think
is.
they are,
I don't
no.
know if it is, but like I guess that's a big caveat and drawback, right? You relinquish control as a user, as a citizen, and you maintain a quality of life and also like a consistency and security, I guess, right? But you give up a lot. And so in America, we don't have to give up that much. But what I'm afraid of is blockchain technology. It interferes with the control that these bigger companies have, and these bigger companies play a massive role in how our country is governed, dictated, etc. Right? They're the ones that invest in all these politicians and invest in campaigns that effectively drive the rules that we have to live upon. So that's what I'm more afraid of, is that this blockchain technology is becoming so dangerous to them.
Right. But it's interesting because, again, like it does feel way safer to trust your money with a bank, even after 2008. Like I wonder why we still have so much built-in trust with these big banks, but we have such a reluctancy to trust something like cryptocurrency and blockchain. And I think you brought up a great point of like, I don't even understand some of the things you say, let alone my 80-something-year-old grandma.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, try to explain AWS to the average human, and you can't. So there's a lot of things that you just put into layman's terms and kind of blanket them that make crypto a lot easier to understand. Nobody really has to know the intrinsics of blockchain.
Sure. I mean, yeah, agreed. And no one should have to, right? I think banks have just been around a lot longer, right? People are just used to how banks work.
But look no further than like Argentina versus us. The moment Argentina is dealing with inflation at some points can fluctuate like 35% day in, day out. But the reason why we trust America too is because the Fed is not fucking us over by increasing or decreasing supply too much and causing inflation or deflation.
They have a good handle.
But the moment they do, best believe, all of us would be scared if we end up becoming like one of those countries where we don't know if the money in our bank account's gonna be worth the same the next day.
Right. So, someone said to me, I think it was Matt Kemenash said to me 3 years ago, he was like, when inflation's 10 to 15%, people are pissed. He's like, we've seen that. When inflation's 40%, people are in the streets with guns. We haven't seen that. So I hope you're right that the Fed has, and people argue over that all the time, but I hope you're right that the Fed has that in mind, because people think like they get so worked up on the president and shit in these elections. The most powerful person in the country is Jerome Powell. It's not close.
It's a crazy thought and this is like rabbit hole kind of. This is why it's here. Is like is the thought of like an inflation rate at a number like that, and then also limiting our ability to use something like tradable Bitcoin.
Yeah,
that's a scary thought.
Well, I think crypto is just a good hedge bet, right? Like if anything, if you want to hedge against the U.S. and make sure like your money is like your wealth is going to continue to exist, or at least at its capacity that like affords you your life, like it could be a good hedge bet in case you don't want to put all your eggs in like the Jerome Powell basket, right?
Right. That's interesting. Mike, so your brother was going through all of this, you were involved in the MetaverseHQ community though. Did you ever want to get more involved like he was doing or no?
Yeah, I was a part of that community. Like seeing that community in real time, by the way, was awesome. And I'm really proud of my brother and, what he was able to accomplish and what he's doing now.
It takes a fucking village, dude.
Yeah, it was a really stressful time. Like even myself, I'd be in Iceland. I'm trying to visit all these spots, but we have such great Wi-Fi in the fucking car that like I couldn't leave the car because I was trying to mint some mutant cats. But like, yeah, I think at that time I was really young too, so I was trying to figure out like what I wanted to do, and I even came out with a project. Like I came out with Cribbo. It was it was a PFP, right? I spoke with you about that. That's like, like I was still trying to figure out what I wanted to do in life.
We had a Johnny Drinks Cribbo.
Yeah.
We
had a Johnny Drinks Cribbo.
We had a little animated Johnny Drinks. We have to pull that picture up for sure.
Yeah,
that was hilarious. We had him dressed as my dad, so it was like he had a blue vest on. He had a ring. He had a smoker. He had a little bottle of bourbon. He had glasses on. That's fucking hilarious.
Dude, it's just a shout out to Jeff, my boy. He's the one that designed those.
Yo, that is so funny.
Jeff's the homie. But yeah, I think at that time I was trying to figure out a lot of what was like my life, because seeing people and a lot of money coming in really fast, it makes you reevaluate like what you're currently doing, if you should be doing something else, and if that something else is this fucking market, right? If that's the only thing. And so after that project, it kind of made me like when I came out of the NFT project and was able to think things over. Not going to get into too much details about like the co-founder stuff in there and whatnot, because that was another situation when you just think about business. But it did make me realize that like, okay, if I did want to do something in the future, instead of it being around like NFTs, I want it to be around something that I actually truly cared about, like a problem that I wanted to solve. So I actually took the approach. I ended up stepping away from like NFTs and crypto for like a year to 2 years, and that's where a long-winded way of saying like I ended up joining another startup, helped them from like 0 to 7 million revenue, but that was more on the Web 2 side. But now I'm slowly making my way back to crypto, and I think the lesson learned is like that time was an abnormal market. Everyone and their mother could have made money off a random ass JPEG, but the reason why I came back to the market again is because of things like things that my brother and the similar companies are doing, where NFTs became the focus more around utility and versus what it was before of let's just like make some money by throwing out some random JPEG and seeing if it sticks with the audience.
Right. So are you both? I guess question. Do you sort of see that as like that was a great and crazy time, but it'll probably never happen again?
I think it's happening right now.
It's happening right now, but
Yeah,
not for
it's
NFTs.
happening right
for
now.
I'm gonna have to
crypto.
I'm gonna get back in.
No, it's crazy. The market is
Yeah.
insane right now. It's going bananas.
Maybe that's why I'm back in it.
Pulling me back in. That's what I heard. I was like, wait a minute, you're back
Right
in?
now.
I think I'm fucking back in, baby.
Yeah, there's just a lot more diversity, right? So it's not just NFTs anymore. It's not just one blockchain. It's everywhere. There's so much diversity in what you can invest in and where you can find a play.
Really? So it's even more complex than it once was.
It's a lot more complex.
Oh my god, it was crazy
Yeah.
back then.
It
That's
is a lot
why
more
the need for a
complex.
community to aggregate even more insights is now more prevalent than ever because
Yeah.
there's just so much to look at and review.
I mean, I remember even like back then, you had like a 5-minute window of like catching an alpha.
Sure.
And then if you missed it, you're like, God damn it, I missed that. And then you guys
Yeah.
were like, just aped in, yada yada. Profit was crazy.
Yeah.
I was eating
Screenshots.
dinner.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, you couldn't take a shower.
No, dude,
Without-
it
without
got to the
missing
point where you're
something.
just so addicted to this thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Sleeping was like
It was
man,
tough.
should I go to sleep right now? Or
Yeah.
like, I know Mitch is up.
Yep.
So where do you realistically see, I guess, the entire, it's March 2024. What do you think, and this is like a ballpark number, that Bitcoin ever hits this year?
This year, maybe 100K, like maybe.
Yeah.
I think with the Ethereum ETFs, just ETFs now becoming a lot more, crypto becoming a lot more accessible through ETFs is really just pumping up the space like massively, right? And you had all this Bitcoin inflow through the ETF recently. You're gonna have the Ethereum inflow through the ETFs that are like currently being reviewed by the SEC. And yeah, I could see Bitcoin hitting 100K this year. A lot of people, I imagine, would also agree with me.
Do you, and again, this is from outside perspective, trying to like put this in layman's terms. If you have something like ETH increasingly getting more valuable, does that devalue the dollar eventually? Like, is that a risk too that we run?
So I believe that the value of a dollar is really tied into not just how it's controlled, but also how much it's used.
Mm-hmm.
And the more accessible crypto becomes for people, not just in terms of investing and owning it, but also using it. Obviously, that's why I think crypto is a great hedge bet, because I'm banking on that type of future, on that future outcome. The more people use these other currencies and use USD less, right? Obviously, these currencies become a lot more powerful than USD.
Right. So isn't it like inevitable that the U.S. government's going to say, "Hey, we can't have this happen"?
Well, that's what I'm talking about, right? So that's the game theory here. It's that this technology becomes so efficient that it becomes prohibitive to control, and control is what all governments and companies want, right? From their people, from their users.
That's so interesting to think about. Like, maybe you get powerful, but not too powerful.
That's what I'm saying.
That's the sweet spot.
But you really can't stop it, right?
Right. When it goes parabolic, who are you going to tell to stop trading?
Yeah, and
Not
this
gonna be you.
technology is not supported by any like, who do you destroy? How do you destroy like Amazon's? If you want to shut down AWS, shut down Amazon, right? How do you shut down Ethereum, right? There are so many contributors at this point that it would literally be very, very difficult. Like, banning Bitcoin itself in China was only possible because they already have such a firm control over their people.
Right. I get, like, in theory, how would they go about banning Ethereum and Bitcoin here?
You would just you would have to shut down every crypto exchange in America.
Yeah.
And they can make it illegal. They can disincentivize it if they just want to make that consider that like an illegal transaction. Like,
Yeah.
no one's gonna risk their.
They
in
could do it
America.
very easily. They
Yeah,
could basically
you know what
make
I
it
mean?
illegal to even own or transact in crypto.
Man, this is some crazy shit.
It's a scary thought. It's definitely not one that like keeps me up at night, but I just look at this as like it's a zero-sum game, right?
Right. And also, you'd probably see that coming prior to then it just happening. Like, it's not like you're going to have all of your money in ETH and then the shutdown happens. Like, what? I didn't even know this was going to happen today.
I'd hope so. I hope they give us a warning at least, right?
Oh, God. Yeah.
Hey, your house is about to burn down.
You're like, gotcha, bitch.
Get
Now
your
you
shit
will.
out. Yeah.
Yeah. So future of Bitcoin 100K, which is lower than what I've seen online, and maybe that's just like the craze of people getting excited. More of a
they say
realistic goal.
500K. a
Yeah,
million.
like where do they even pull these numbers out of?
Well,
Bitcoin
Jules,
to the
where
moon.
would the money be coming? Because even from your like understanding, even what money's tied up right now in treasuries, or so let's say
Jules?
assets are tied up for like 5 years. Is
He's
it
a
inev-
podcaster now, dude. He's not a banker anymore.
Malaka, I haven't looked at this in 5 years. I don't even know what a treasury
He's
is
like,
anymore.
I know what a sick thumbnail
The
looks
reason
like.
why I
Yeah,
ask him
top
to actually is
practice.
because Julian's actually one of the smartest people that I know. He's like always up to date, not
He
just
is.
with his guests, but like everything that's happening around.
I'm really
the
the
world.
dumbest person on this podcast right now. It feels terrible.
That's not true.
I'm like, but
That's
wait,
not true.
guys, I'm
That's
over
not
here.
true.
That's not
Oh,
true.
no, all right, guys, got it.
But what were you saying?
For when you think about like money that's locked up, is it cyclical when you think about, since interest rates were high, a lot of people might have thrown money at bonds or treasuries that are like a long-term investment, so they can't pull that money out. Is that
Depends
period?
what they put it in. Did they
Oh,
put it in
gotcha.
a passive vehicle or did they put it in actual bonds? So wealthy
the
people
banker.
often are going to put it in actual bonds. Now, if they put it in with like a managed account, so like if I go to BlackRock and say, all right, I want to set up let's say I'm worth like $30 million or something. Okay, I want to set up a $2 million muni portfolio of municipal bonds that you're going to buy individually and manage it. I can then, BlackRock's so big that I can go to BlackRock a month later and be like, sell all of it. I need the money, right? And that might not be the smart thing to do, but you could do that. But for the average investor, if you're looking at like Main Street money, if people are buying bonds and they're trying to get it to some sort of maturity or the next interest payment or something, they may keep it more locked up in there. But I mean, I think shit's pretty, without looking at the bond market and knowing exactly what's going on there right now, because I can't really speak to that, but let's say it's somewhat normal, like shit's pretty liquid these days. People can move.
See, I was just curious and hearing from our resident investment banker here. I was just curious because I don't know if how much that plays a role in it either, of like money being tied down because of the high interest rates, but now it's available. If that'll pump not just like Bitcoin, but the markets in general, because people have cash to spend now. Like, I don't
Okay,
know.
yeah. Well, I have a question for our banker as well. So when they do predict stock pricing, right? I predict Starbucks will be up to whatever. They justify that by basic metrics.
They
but-
make shit up.
Right. That was going to be my question. With the Bitcoin value, like they're making that up.
Look, the way we used to joke about let's talk on stocks for a sec. The way we used to joke about the equity strategist is it's going to go up, it's going to come down, then it'll go up again a little more, and it'll come down again, then go up. Like, they'll have the minute you see, like, especially the joke was, ironically, it was with Goldman Sachs when it came to like stock investments, because Goldman Sachs is viewed as the best investment bank in the world. I would agree with that. But they're like, their personal investment side, no, like
Really?
they're not good. So the joke was, whenever their strategist would come out and say buy, that meant sell everything. If their
shit.
strategist would come out and say sell, that meant buy everything.
Is this like the Jim
Right.
Kramer inverse effect?
I was just about to say,
no,
dude.
they were the Jim Kramer before Jim Kramer.
Before Jim Kramer.
I know
Poor
Jim
guy.
Kramer's a friend of the show, but
He was a great guy, but it's funny. Like you really do only count his losses. Like he's had some big wins. The guy has a name for a reason. He's a genius, dude.
John,
Oh no, I'm not counting his
John,
track
that
record.
man's racked more L's than a goddamn. I mean,
This
Christ.
is when you cut in the clip of the 2008 Lehman Brothers. I like Lehman. I
love Bear Stearns right here. No, what was the one he started crying about Facebook in October? And Facebook went down, and then like he was on air one morning, and he was like, "I'm so." I don't even know what to say.
Well,
and
now
they're
it's
like, all right, Jim, it's a stock. And then the next day, like from there on out, it's up like 400%.
Right.
Dude, I will give him this though, right? Like you have to make your calls. You have to give your alpha to everybody.
That's terrible.
You're literally posting your conviction to everyone.
It's such a bad job.
It's such a terrible job because you either win money, you either win people money or you lose people money, but you'll only be remembered by your losses.
Correct.
Because they're so
Yes,
epic.
that's
To say
true.
that Lehman Brothers is a good buy at 30, like whatever win that he actually had, like that YouTube video is viral forever.
Oh, the best!
You know?
The best
poor
was like
guy,
a
man.
day before Bear Stearns fails. He's like, Bear Stearns is fine. Next day, one day later, gone.
Well, now the problem is he has the inverse effect. So even if it was supposed to skyrocket when he said, nobody's believing him anymore.
It's because he's become a meme.
He's becoming a meme.
Yes.
It's a
and
very
meme
weird
culture
thing.
is so strong
So
nowadays.
strong.
And he's
He
people like, what
wasn't
the
ready
fuck
for
is
that.
going on?
Yeah.
He wasn't ready for it.
No.
Just like GameStop.
Yeah.
What did he say about Nvidia though? Wasn't he he was a buy on Nvidia.
I mean, if you weren't a buy, if he wasn't a
wasn't-
buy,
I feel like we would have heard about it.
yeah. My dad likes Jim Kramer, so he like. I think my dad's bullishness from Nvidia may have come from Jim, but But to just like post those, I think people like to. I don't want to say they're jealous, but I think it's a lot easier to give hate, right, and to call out people's flaws than to call out what like they've actually done and contributed, right? It gets a lot more viral on these social media platforms and stuff, and I think that's unfortunately what happened to Jim. It's that like he's had all these massive notable wins, but like that's not really what goes viral on social media platforms, right?
Who's the CEO of Twitter? Dorsey, is that his name?
It was Jack
Right,
Dorsey.
Jack Dorsey. So Kramer was like friends with him or something and was having a conversation, and he was like, you're actually one of the most hated people on Twitter. And he's like, how hated am I? And he's like, single digit hated. As in, like, he is one of the top 10 hated humans on Twitter.
On Twitter?
Yeah, back in the day.
For giving stock tips?
Dude, think about it. I guess what happens is money is very sensitive for people.
Yeah.
Like you said, it's the worst job in the world. It's very thankless.
Yes.
He's had a ton of wins, but those losses that he's had are not small losses.
It's a dog-eat-dog world with that stuff, man.
But he explained on the podcast that he just loves it. He loves the game. He loved it when he was in it. He was so intrigued by it. And in the beginning, he was just doing it because he was excited. And then people loved his personality, and now he's Jim Cramer.
Well, I also thought I never really understood the whole giving your conviction to the world.
I don't get it.
Right? Unless you're like buying or selling the stock first before you give the insight, like what advantage does that have for you as an individual other than building your media personality?
That was pretty much it.
And then also, like, what is the use of information if everyone knows it? It's not valuable anymore.
Well, so what changed the game was when the hedge funds became a thing, and you had these overnight billionaires running, then got access to outside wealth. They'd have funds spun up 10, 20, $50 billion, and they could become activist investors, meaning I might be Bill Ackman from Pershing Square.
That's such a good example.
And I could decide to buy a board seat buy a couple board seats based on my position because of all the scale I have at a company, and I can change what that company does. And I can also write up opinions that move the markets because people are like, oh, Ackman's moving money here. What does that mean? That means, oh, maybe $2 billion is coming out of this stock, which means I need to sell too, so he can then make money on his shorts. It's a very, very gray area that happens in the modern day.
It's a different day and age now. Even technology, what's crazy is like you think about some of these hedge funds, and I won't say a specific name because I can't, but they even have weather technology that's better than all other weather news stations in the world. And they use that to predict when certain commodities like oil or wheat or any of that is going to either go high or low, and they make billions of dollars.
Is this
off
the
of that.
CIA controlling the weather?
Here we go again.
Better than the CIA.
There's this technology. This just didn't happen back in the day when Jim was like slinging it, wheeling and dealing down.
It's a different environment Jim lives in now.
It's going to be 55 and sunny in
This poor guy, man.
The over under.
Oranges are going to shit.
Oh man, but like you said, I don't know why. To build your media personality would probably be the only reason, and maybe he just felt that he probably just was like, I'm doing this, and now I'm going to keep doing it and have
it's
the
like,
show. And
who cares if you're the most hated? You're also very, very rich, and you don't give a fuck what anyone
I was
says.
gonna say,
What
he's
was the
probably
line
got a
you had?
decent sized bank account.
What was the line you had early on in the podcast? That people are ready to hate it, people are ready to love it too.
True.
I
Also
like that.
true.
I quote that all
Fortunately,
the time.
with Jim, it's more on the hate side.
I don't see him turning around
It's
unless he
tough.
had like a crazy. But again, then if he was right about something and everybody else didn't believe him, now they hate him because they were all wrong.
Right.
Well, but now since
a
there's
good point. Like,
now
there's
there's
no
an
winning.
inverse, right? So it's like
It's
okay,
terrible.
It's like if Jim says one thing, then we know the other thing's going to happen. That's great, Jim. Keep going. You know,
Yeah, they like hate
now you basically just got to find a way to make Jim be valuable, right?
Yes.
Well, how is Jim valuable? Well, just play the inverse.
Well,
man.
John, for you, do you add your opinion at all, or do you try to stay away from opinion because of like the following you have now?
On what?
On just like, I guess, subjects that can maybe be touchy. Like,
We don't talk about like politics. Probably like the only thing I would stay away from. You would probably guess which side we lean on if you really wanted to know. But like
Sleepy
that's
Joe?
yeah, exactly. That sort of stuff only because it really only comes with downside. You know what I mean? If I came out and was like rah rah Trump or rah rah Biden, where am I benefiting? You may get some supporters that are like, yeah, now I like even more. But more often than not, you're gonna get the people that are like, fuck that guy now, I hate him.
Yeah.
Or
So like,
making conventional.
everything else. I really couldn't think of anything that sharing my opinion would help me. that much. They want to watch us make drinks and food and do shit like that. They don't want to hear about my opinions on abortion.
That's actually,
I mean, like,
that's actually a great point, and that's the beauty of what you do too.
Yeah.
It's apolitical, man.
It sounds like you're able, though, Julian, to have your opinion, but people don't get mad at you for having your opinion.
No, because
as much.
I have, it's so funny. Everything in my life is either on or off, hot or cold, right? But politically, I'm incredibly nuanced. So I'm going to piss people off with every single thing I say, but I'm going to piss them off slightly. So it doesn't have the same vitriol. And also, like, I try not to inject too much of my opinions into things. I have a guest base where I bring on people from all different backgrounds, right? I do have a cutoff point. So if you're right of here or left of here, like, I'm not talking to you. But if you're anywhere in here, I bring you in. And, I kind of let them make their cases. And then, of course, the commenters are going to say what they're going to say.
Who wouldn't you have on?
Who what?
Who wouldn't you have on? Because they're two left or two right.
Probably someone on MSNBC and someone like Alex Jones.
You wouldn't have Alex Jones on right now?
No.
Wow. I think I would.
I mean, he's entertaining.
I think it'd be a great conversation.
Everyone's also had him on. Like, I don't need to. It'd be great for views, but that's not why I do what I do. Yes, do I need to pay the bills? Do I have to make sure, I'm not putting shit out? Yeah. But I've never, and I don't want to stay with this, I've never chased views for my content. I have done things I'm interested in. And like, if I get Alex in there go, the Democrats are going to take the election away, it's all fucked. Like, we know where it's going to go. I'm going to sit there and laugh my ass off, probably drink like 1 or 10 by the end of it. But like, it's just going to rile people up. And like, look, there's people who will massively disagree with that. There's people who like him a lot, and that's fine. I don't think that kind of thing's for me. I mean, never say never on this kind of stuff, but it's very bad. And I've had this happen a couple times on the podcast where I realize I can guess exactly what the person is going to say next, and I know they don't actually believe what they're going to say. That is a very painful thing to watch in slow motion. It's like watching a train wreck, and you're like, let me help you, and they're not going to take you.
You're like, quick break, please. I feel about that.
No.
And like, you wouldn't want to compromise the integrity of the platform,
That's
right?
right.
Like John and Jules, you guys have massive platforms, and you guys have worked really hard to maintain a certain level of integrity or offering. And as the user base grows, as the audience grows, right? Usually there's a contention between that, where it's like, you want to keep the integrity of the platform, but also your user base is growing so fast. How do you sort of stay consistent?
Yeah, that's a good one too. And then you fight to like, there's some things that are just unnecessary to even talk about. You know what I'm saying? Again, you got to realize like where you're at, what your value is to the space. Why are people watching you? So if I go out on this like whole, I'm going to now really showcase who my dad and I really are and show the bad side too, because we're not perfect. What the fuck does that do for me? Except now piss people off. Like, he's not really a nice guy.
It's more
he's
of
an
a
asshole.
liability.
It's a lot. Again, what do I gain from doing something like that? If it slips and it happens, okay, that's different. But I remember back in the day, I was like very adamant on, we got to show our true selves. My dad's like, fuck that. We're not doing that shit.
Making a drink.
Yeah, my dad's 50 years old. He's like, what are you talking about? Because
Shut up. Two of these.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, because like you build up these characters online, and he is who he is online and in person, which is the beauty of it. But nobody's perfect, Now you go see it, it's like, oh man, I thought he was nice, but he said that one thing, that one video, and now I hate him forever.
Yeah.
The strange thing today is that there's not only an expectation, but there is an incentive to show everything in your life, even if it's fake, right? Correct. To show your fake life. We see, I'm not going to name names, but we see people do this all the time. And my whole thing is like, one day I'm going to have a wife and kids. And I probably don't know my wife right now. So one day I'm going to meet her. And if she's not a public person, I don't want to have the precedent of her stepping into my life and then maybe my kids when they're born having to be public. That's so stupid.
That's like the repercussions to OnlyFans right now.
Right. Well, that's on steroids.
That's like to the heightened level, but that's your point, right?
Right,
it's like,
exactly.
It's like, sure, you're single and you're 19 or 20 today, but like if you want to be a mother or you want to raise a family in the future, whatever you put out will always be available.
But the point is, like, if I start setting an incentive right now that every friend I have, every single thing I do, I'm making it public and making their lives a part of my platform to help grow my brand, whatever the fuck it is they say about this stuff. But if I did that, I'm now setting that expectation. So people will want that content. So one day I'll have a wife and they'll be like, yo, where's your wife? All right, why are you not showing? Why is she not all over this shit? What if she's not gonna want that? You know, maybe I'll marry someone who's public, and they're like, oh, I want that. I don't think I'll do that. I'm not that crazy about that.
So you want to keep this platform and your personal life
look,
a little distinct.
You get me. When I go in there, you all have been in there, like, you get me, right? Like, the cameras go on, nothing changes. I'm exactly who I am. But I don't need to show you myself taking a shit that morning. No. You understand?
Yeah.
And it's also not pleasant.
We thank you for that.
But there's people, literally, there's literal examples of probably even something like that, of people who think like, oh, you know.
They don't realize.
Right. They don't because the internet has transformed who they are, and they're the only one who doesn't realize it.
They don't even know who they are anymore.
They don't.
That's
yes.
Again, you do stay very true to yourself, and I think that's why you're so successful with the podcast. Like, you're getting. I think I've always admired, like, people shy away from contention, and I forget who you had on where, like, it got pretty nasty, where, like, he said something, and you're like, that's just not true, and he's like, what do you mean? And you're like, that's not true. You just said. Yeah. And then he was like, like normal human beings would have just been like, oh, nice. All right, next question. But you, like, are who you are.
That was the only bad guest I've ever had. I've filmed with over whatever it is, 200 people, and I'm very protective of my guests, and I disagree with things all the time, but, like, that's a great thing. That's a human thing.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I welcome the interactions, even sometimes when, you know, they have to get a little bit tense, but all the pros, they handle it well, and we high five afterwards, and it's great. I had one guy, I don't need to get into the whole thing, but I've only ever had one bad guest, and, you know, he chose to do some things, especially after the podcast, before we released it, that, you know, they were what they were. But when I was in there, I did everything I could to help him through that. I knew I had made a mistake inviting him in before he arrived, and I was like, okay. And my goal was not to expose him or do anything like that, which the title ended up being that, literally, because he went to war with me online. So I was like, yo, fuck this guy. Don't make titles when you're angry. That's advice to people out there.
This is the guy you're telling me about.
Yeah. Look at this shit.
Yeah, no, literally, I grabbed the computer from Alessi. I said, this is my intro now. And he's like, okay.
He's like, what?
Like, yeah, he was like, all right, man. But, you know, I was with him in the studio for 3 hours before we started filming, because I had a hotel for him that night, so I knew we had all day. I did not tell Alessi I was going to do this, but I was very concerned about him not taking cues, because I'd started to look at his online activity, and I'm like, oh boy. And so I was trying to guide him through, like, hey, if we get to something like this, I've never done this before. You know, maybe we just get in there, usually record. I'm like, you know, we're going to need to talk about that. Yeah. Maybe you don't need to go into that part. And he wasn't taking cues. And then he insulted me and Alessi right before we went on camera, so I was pissed.
What did he say?
He went after our friend James Fox, like, pretty
Love
hard.
that guy, dude.
Like, to my
UFO
face.
guy?
Who's like the
UFO
nicest
guy.
person I've ever met in my life. So, you know, when we got on there, again, you can go run the tape. I tried to help him through it so many times, but he would like, and then I would like say, well, you know, technically, actually, he would say like, oh, you could get through the cockpit door, no problem. I've been on a plane plenty of times. I could break that down. And I'm like, well, it's actually Kevlar. Here's the evidence. It's been Kevlar since September 2001. A grenade can't get through there. But you know what? That doesn't even matter. It, like, this other point you made, it's great, and I like that. So I would change it, and then he would, and then he would say, yeah, actually, that's right, yada yada yada, and then he'd be like, but by the way, I'd like to circle back to that point about the door, and I'd look at Alessi like, God damn it, and then I'd have to give it to him like, evidence.
Well, that could be, that guest that you have on could be a consequence to you too if you don't challenge him. Because like, I'm sure, John, for you, even like when you think about your fam and like your mom, and when you all got into this, like,
dude, my mom hates this shit. Like, you would think my family is me and my dad. You know what I mean? But like, I got 3 siblings. My mom, everybody's very happy. Like, there's no contention at all. I love getting my mom on camera. I think my mom's great, adds a ton of value to the brand. She just doesn't want it. Like, she's very camera shy. I think it's one of those things where like you don't want to get involved and in too deep in something you don't really know where it's going to go. But I would love if I could create the next Brady Bunch, I would do it. But unfortunately, these only two. Diana's in it here and there, but
your two sisters and your half brother.
Listen, anybody can come in. Yeah, my 1.5 brother.
I need that mailman, bro. I need to see that mailman.
Like, would you chill with Alex? Well, it depends on your mom. Like, depending on whatever your mom's views were. Like, would you take her into consideration if you were to chill with someone like a personality like Alex Jones or a personality like someone else because of?
It's funny, dude, that you say that. So we were just having this conversation today where like the Johnny Drink stuff is my dad and I. Like that's the core of the brand. If my cousin wants to get in a video, you guys, like I wouldn't, that's great. I love all that stuff. Would I shy away from on like the Johnny Drinks page having an OnlyFans girl make a drink with us? Probably. The podcast is a separate brand, right? So where we go in this direction is going to be very different, probably more predicated on me and not just my dad. And I like different things, right? So even something like this, I think this is a very interesting conversation that doesn't align with the Johnny Drinks brand. So a guy like Alex Jones, I think would just be fucking hilarious to have on
this platform.
And unlike Julian, I'm a view whore. So I'd be like, yeah, man, that's gonna crazy. That's gonna go crazy.
It would go crazy if you had him on. It would
on.
definitely go crazy. Yeah, I don't know. When I have Jesse Michaels on, I'll talk to him about it just because like he had him on. I'd like to see what that's like.
Yeah.
But that was a random example coming to my head just of like, I try to stay, like, we want liberal and conservative opinions and everything in between. Just if it goes so far, it's like, you know what they're going to say.
Exactly.
It's not as fun.
Yeah,
it's not as fun. It's not that it's just not as fun for me. I'm like, okay.
You're going to hear exactly. Yeah, exactly. Well,
all
I guess.
Right, Obama's an alien. I got it. All right.
Yeah, like that'd be fun. Yeah. Question, like, I guess for you guys or Mitch specifically, did you ever, or did you intentionally shy away from becoming like a personality online because of what you do? Because you see all the time, I think the biggest issue with the e-com space is that as soon as somebody makes $1 million, or not even, they're now these gurus and they're selling courses. And it's like, dude, how do I believe you when all you do is post about the money you're making and you're selling something, clearly not making that much money if you have to go sell a course. So like, how do you feel about something like that?
I think that's a great question. It's a matter for me of less about how much do I build my own personal brand, more so how do I ensure that I am cooking, right? I'm making money,
right?
And enabling my community to make money, right? Like that's really more my focus, is less about becoming a personal brand, because I think you can get into a personal brand for a lot of reasons, right? Maybe you want to develop a platform, maybe you want to share truths, you want to expose them. Or you simply want to, again, like sell shit to your followers, right? And I think for me, I don't have that, like, I don't need to generate wealth through those avenues.
Right.
I found a particular course that I'm able to generate wealth and also be a little bit stealth. And I honestly prefer that route as opposed to back in my younger days. I was growing my LinkedIn to tens of thousands of followers and making content there, right? We were doing a podcast on TikTok, and not to say that's really great, that wouldn't be great exposure for MetaverseHQ. We do a lot of that and we have a really big audience size, but the more that the focus is on me, the less it's on everyone else's contributions. And I'd rather it be a focus on everyone else's contributions, not so that, I am like delineating not so that I'm spreading the accountability, but more so because I want to spread the wealth.
Yeah.
And have our efforts collectively be the focus.
And I guess also like the exclusivity of what you guys do is what makes it so special. Like if everybody knew about it, let's keep it real. If everyone knew how valuable or how much money you could be making trading NFTs and was getting really good at it, the pie's the same size, except there's more people eating at it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like a hard balance.
It's that thing with Jim Cramer, right? It's like, is information valuable if everyone knows it?
Right.
And I'd argue that the more people know it, the value is diluted.
Right. And it's not a zero-sum game, but it exactly. And I'm sure, like, it's interesting that you don't really see any NFT or crypto gurus selling this stuff online.
What they sell is their platform. So typically you'll see like an influencer, and this is really big in crypto and NFTs. You'd see an influencer, they would be given, free NFTs, free tokens. All they have to do is tweet about it, and this thing goes viral. They make a lot of money just from one tweet, just from their platform. That's never going to be me. I don't think that's ever going to be anyone in HQ. Like our focus is really on the collective entity as opposed to becoming a personal entity.
Right.
It was always value, because even when Mitch was hitting us up, it's not like he was very public, but he only cared about like to make sure, hey, if I'm going to tell you something, it's because we're going to make money on it, and it's going to be us together. And I think that's reflective of where Mitch's company is at right now as well. He's kind of democratizing that to the people, almost like Mitch's platform right now. They actually went from like 0 to 200,000 monthly active users in the span of like a month to 2 months. And what they've done is like they've unlocked people to be a part of the process, and not in a way of like you have to invest. Like, hey, buy an NFT, this shit's gonna sell out. We're gonna resell this for a lot of money. It's like, hey, have the opportunity to join a community. You're not going to lose any money because you're not investing any money. You're only going to gain like free airdrops, access to XYZ, whatever. It's like only a benefit to the user. And that's how they've been able to scale. Because he's always cared about, to me, Mitch has always cared about that context. It's like less about his brand. It's like it's morphed into how can I help as many people out as possible.
Right. Like you said, it's your focus. Like if your focus was, I'm going to build a gigantic personal social media page, there's an opportunity cost to that, and now you're not prioritizing building your community from the ground up, and that is interesting.
It's also like there is something to be said about being a vocal proponent of your company, like David Portnoy and Barstool, right? But also and Elon Musk and Tesla and whatever the fuck he's building, but like then you become the one intrinsic person tied to that brand. So anything that you do will affect that.
Right.
And so that could either be for better or for worse, right? In Portnoy's case, maybe it was for better and worse at the same time.
Sometimes
probably with Elon's,
better,
right? Yeah. But the way that I see it is the people that we have on staff in HQ, this community as well that we've been building for 2-3 years now, and also the new users we have on when we launch our a product. My goal, my personal wealth, I'm good. I did great in the first bull run. I did great investing in the bear, and I'm good. My priority is really not just me and my financial motivation, my personal financial motivation, but my motivation for others' financial opportunities. You've
always been like that. Like, even when I was getting involved, like a big win for me, which would be nothing for you, you were excited for that. You know what I mean?
Big win for you meant a big deal to me, though.
Was a big. That's what I mean. Like you were genuinely excited. There was never a call you wouldn't take. You were always willing to help me. During the time, I was like, "What is minting?" And you're like, "All right, let me break it down for you in simplistic terms," when you had 1,000 other things going on.
Sure.
So you took that as like, I brought him into this space. I'm gonna make sure
it's my responsibility.
He's my responsibility because I know that
he
can go and blow all of his money if he was doing this thing wrong.
These guys are all about the community around them.
Yeah.
That's the name of the game. That's what the vibe was. That's why I loved halfway living with you guys at 3266 Kennedy. It's like there was always things going on because you had your hands in all different types of people doing all different types of cool shit, and however you could support that and support them, you did. And it's infectious, and it's an amazing trait. And it's also something, when I talk about different people who I owe the credit to even doing what I do right now, you're looking at two of them right there for sure.
No, you guys have built an amazing, because you have been supportive, you know what I mean? You have built an amazing community online, but you reflect that in person. I mean, you meet you one time and you're a helpful guy. And I remember we had a great conversation maybe a year ago. You're like, what does John 2.0 look like? Because you always got to use terms that are used a lot.
2.0,
but you're like, what is your, you're like, I'm always thinking about Mitch 2.0, but like, what is John 2.0? What are you going to be doing in the future? Where do you see yourself? What do you get excited about? Like those little conversations could have been 10 minutes, but that's what's impactful, and those are the people you got to surround yourself with.
And also we're all family men, right?
Oh yeah,
you built a business with your family, and Jules, you couldn't have built Trend to Fire and now Julian Dorey podcast if it wasn't for your family and their support. And Mike and I are the same exact way, right? So it's like when you look at life through that lens, then your friends become family, and the people that you interact with and you invest time into also inherently become, you know, a part of you. And I said this to my cousin one time. I said, like, I'd rather, he was like, why are you crashing my house in Chino Hills? You could be staying at a fucking, like, really nice hotel, right? Like, why are you sleeping on, in this, like, shitty ass couch? Yeah, Matt. And I was like, I'd rather be crashing at my cousin's place than, like, rich alone in my mansion. Like,
Yes.
I never, that's always how I've seen it.
Yes.
And I see it now more than ever today. Like, my motivation today is not just the success. Like, I know the success of the company is important, but what is important is that success is enables the people that are helping build it, being a part of our community. And that's really more of the end game, right? It's not to sell a company or get acquired or make a lot of money personally. It's not just that, right? I don't really care about the prestige as much as I care about making sure that people that have been helping run and engage with the community for all of these years are taken care of and never have to worry about money ever again.
Because you have 20 mouths to feed now, right? Like, if we're thinking about actual employees of people that
there's
you're,
a
like,
lot of
looking after.
contributors in HQ. Yeah,
like
a lot of
actual
people pour
employees
their
now of the
blood,
company.
sweat, and tears. And it's a 24/7 job. So it's
Yeah.
like, and I'm sure you guys feel the same way, right? You want to make sure that everyone eats on your team, right? It's the same feeling
real
over
pressure.
here.
Yeah.
It's a lot of pressure. It is.
Yeah,
Well, that's
you
awesome,
stress
man.
about Alessi all the time. This motherfucker was stressed out for the past year because of, you know, he's like, when they hadn't gotten funding yet, he's like, these people are literally depending on me. You know,
Yeah.
I'm paying them a salary.
And
Like,
they have families and shit, you know, and like these are people I'd go to battle for. So
crazy feeling, yeah. Can you
it's
imagine?
nights are sleepless for many other reasons now.
Right.
Let's put it that way.
That speaks to who you are, man. You definitely are a pure soul, you know, and you don't find that too often. So this has been awesome. I mean, thank you guys for coming on. Do you want to plug anything? Shout out Metaverse. You guys all right? You don't even want to tell
No,
anybody?
bro. I think
He's
You're like,
above
nah,
the
we're good.
plugs.
no.
We're like, yeah, no, we're right.
I think that I think the conversation itself is a plug, right?
Yeah,
like this
absolutely,
is
man.
you asked a lot of great questions about crypto and NFTs and what the fuck blockchain is. You know, Jules asked me that 3 years ago. I was in the space and even I didn't know, right?
Like,
I didn't
huh,
know how to define
good
a lot of these
question.
terms. And so I'm just happy to be invited, right, to come and share some of these insights. Hopefully they're valuable for people. Hopefully they're not. And I wouldn't take a word of this as financial advice, but I would take it.
disclaimer in
Everything
there.
we just said.
I would
Don't
take it as
listen.
context.
Yeah,
I would take
no,
it as
for sure.
context,
Yep,
right?
absolutely.
Like you said, the first thing I told you was, sure, you can make a lot of money. You can also easily get smoked,
Yes.
right, and lose it all. That's any market that you play. That's any asset class that you invest in. This one just happens to be so fucking volatile. You can't take a shower. So,
Have fun.
yeah, exactly. Have fun.
Well, that's it for today, guys. Like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. Cheers.